Anthropological dualism. The last major dualism that we will be discussing is anthropological. That is, it has to do with a split made in the middle of the human person. Most often this takes the form of dualism between body and soul, though there have certainly been variations on that theme. Anthropological dualism asserts that the human person is divided into two mutually exclusive parts. For argument's sake, we will stick to the division between body and soul. These two parts may be connected together, but such a connection is seen as nothing more than a mathematical point. That is, there's no real connection between them. That which affects one of them does not touch the other. Physical things have no spiritual value, and spiritual things have no physical value. Anthropological dualisms were extremely common in the early church, especially where Christianity had been influenced by Platonic thought. Even in recent times, this form of dualism is latent in much Christian thought. C.S. Lewis, who I like in general, once commented, "You do not have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body." If all he meant were that our souls are fully part of who we are, and not something added on by people who are religiously minded, there'd be no problem. However, to imply that the body is just added on is the same issue, just turned around a different way. Similar trends are seen when Christians talk exclusively about God saving souls of believers, as if somehow the soul is separate from the rest of the human person. The early church realized that anthropological dualism tears apart the Christian faith and came to a church-wide agreement about it at the First Ecumenical Council of Constantinople in 381 AD. The issue at the time was called Apollinarianism, which proclaimed that Jesus could not possibly have had a human mind. The argument went something like this. We know that God came into the world as a specific human being and took humanity upon himself. However, the human mind is the source of all kinds of terrible corruption. This corruption was viewed as so utterly opposed to God that to say that Jesus had a human mind would be tainting the divine nature. The church eventually handled the situation by affirming a clarifying statement put forward by Gregory Nazianzen, which said, "The unassumed is unhealed." This statement basically means that if there's any part of human nature that God did not take upon himself in the incarnation, the same part of human nature remains unredeemed. In that specific instance, if Jesus did not have a human mind, our human minds remain untouched by God's redemptive work. The reality of the incarnation overthrows such partitive ways of thinking of the human person. Jesus does not make a distinction between soul and body, but enters into both equally. There are moments in the New Testament where the authors will speak of the body in negative terms and the soul or spirit in positive terms, but upon closer examination, it's clear that this is merely an illustrative distinction and not meant to imply a complete dualism in humanity. Gregory Nazianzen is by no means infallible, nor is his famous dictum sacrosanct, but it is particularly helpful in summarizing the significance of the redemptive work of Christ, so it is lifted up here as a pithy explanation of what is faithful to the gospel.